astrological aspects that we can all be made aware of. Because there's a lot going on this month, starting with this new moon, isn't there? I think April 3rd, where we come into a new moon, and there's many alignments that I don't understand.
Yeah, well, there's 6 planets in Aries right now, and all of those planets in such a breakthrough sign. It's the part of everybody right now that I keep hearing a similar theme from people, Lance, from my readers and my astrology clients and a lot of people. What I keep hearing is that it's pretty rough for a lot of people right now, and there's many complications and intensities, but at the same time, I'm also hearing about this kind of a relief that all this energy in Aries right now is kind of forcing a change. It's breaking open those hidden factors that have been behind the scenes manipulating everything. It's not so behind the scenes anymore. Like that movie Inside Job, it basically exposed the dirty laundry of President Obama and the United States government. It basically just exposed it to a huge audience with somebody as mainstream as Matt Damon, a top famous Hollywood actor, doing the narration. It isn't some sort of dry, cerebral documentary for intellectuals. It's a real sexy documentary.
Oh, and
yeah, really, really juicy and clear, simple and hard hitting. And it's kind of symbolic for me of what I feel is going on. That there's a lot of things that are dark and hard, and it's hard for people to find hope right now in a lot of ways. But at the same time, this Aries energy, all these planets in Aries are just kind of busting through the illusion and opening a path and just almost like forcing people to just push off in a new direction. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the coming months, because the outer planet Uranus just entered Aries for 7 years. And there's a real ripple effect of people taking heart and courage from the good things. Here in Vermont, there's a special law in this state that I think we're the only state who has it, that the state of Vermont has to okay a nuclear power plant in order for it to keep running. And what's happening here is that the state legislature nuclear plant, when its license expires in 2012, that Obama is probably trying to put pressure on the governor. It's very interesting to see how this one plays out, because Vermont is still a strong New England over about shutting down this plant, and a lot of people are starting to speak out through the town government all over the state to just as they had in Japan.
Well, that has to happen if we're going to survive, for one thing, and all of them need to dispose of the toxic waste, which goes on for sometimes tens of thousands of years. So, and not to mention all the bombs that have been detonated already, and the depleted uranium that's being used in the wars over there. So, there really needs to be a strong movement to stop all atomic activity immediately.
Yes.
And without question. I mean, there shouldn't even be a second thought about it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy, and it's just an indication, Lance, of the cloud that the media, that the mass media presents over the truth and the minds and the hearts of people in our country. How anyone in their right mind could ever fall for the lies and the economic deceptions that we need nuclear power plants. It's one of the most mysterious and unfathomable of all the deceptions that are going on.
Absolutely. And our reliance on oil is so antiquated and antediluvian. We could have been off of oil 60 or 70 years ago, given the technology that's been taken private by the corporations. So
Yes.
That's another thing. We're living in the wild, wild west still. And there's no need for it except that the money's being sucked right out of our pockets to feed these people trillions of dollars. They're just it's astonishing and it's staggering. I mean, about the $3 trillion disappearing from the Pentagon, and I mean, it's just endless. Well, we don't know where it went. Well, right, sure. So, and then when the people own the stations and they've manipulated everything in their favor, how do we begin to get you said the internet.
The internet, and it's a grassroots movement. It spreads because truth has a stronger and a clearer undertone vibration to it than lies. Yes. And just the way animals in the jungle spread news to each other, even when they're miles away from each other. Elephants, talk to each other over the distance. The truth of the soul, it spreads from person to person and country to country, either through internet on an informational level or psychically, just as a vibe, as a feeling that, come on, let's just get back to something real.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like we're going to be, again, to connect, we're already connected at the collective level, unconsciously, but do you see an emergence of a higher consciousness where we're aware and tapped into each other and reconnected so that we are aware that we are one and what we do to another we're doing to ourselves?
I feel that is happening, and at the same time that's happening, what's also happening is that the old mentality is digging in one last time because it feels that its days are numbered. Yeah. And one interesting point that the makers of the movie Inside Job made was that these bankers, these head top politicians, and bankers who really screwed the country, also were addicted to prostitutes and cocaine and things like gambling, and it just conjures up for me this like Nero fiddled while Rome burned kind of a phase of history. That the fat cats are deluded. You think that these are people worthy of being leaders and being in the government and being in the White House and running the system, but they're actually so out of touch. They're like an addict. In fact, they are addicts.
Right, they are.
And it's just so crazy that side of things isn't going to go away overnight in favor of the oneness that you're talking about. I feel that both movements are occurring simultaneously, that there is a growing recognition that we are all one, and that we have to come back to something sane, and we have to stand for something real for the sake of all humankind. And I do believe that is a growing movement, and at the same of worldly power are not going to transform overnight into the love generation.
Yeah, exactly. And filling for their own interests, their own self-interest. And we can feel going over Niagara Falls, so now maybe while we're doing that, maybe we can discuss other ways to handle this situation before we hit the bottom.
In whatever way is rightful is the answer. Living your life truly, following the conscience That's right. Living authentically, following the conscience of your heart and your mind, refusing to keep mum, like you say about the elephant carcass in the living room. Just all of those are ways and means available to every human being. You don't have to subscribe to the illusion that you're a weak, ineffectual nobody and the president and the billionaires are the ones who are running everything. It's not true.
No.
It's a passing illusion that got so bloated and corrupt on its own lies that the more that every normal human being just actually dislodges the illusion.
Absolutely. Do you make any connections between the Mayan calendar and these times playing into the astrology as well? How does that fit in?
I'm not an expert in the Mayan calendar, and so I leave that side of things to others who really know more about it.
Okay.
Yeah. And, yeah.
So now we're heading into a kind of a rough period, but it's a period of turbulence and monumental change, isn't it? As far as the alignments go.
Yeah, it really feels like we're going through the kind of turbulence that's necessary to disrupt the previous order of things. And that's shaking all across the spectrum. That's disrupting people in Mississippi and New Orleans and Wisconsin and Japan and Iraq and California. It's not limited to only one social sphere, only one ethnicity or one nation. The turbulence is needed in order to draw the world's attention to the insanity of our time and shake up a paradigm, an outlook, a worldview that is obsolete and deadly and can no longer sustain a planet or a species. And that kind of turbulence is ushering in what looks to be a 20-year period of transformation where we really have about the next 20 years to turn this whole thing around if we're ever going to do it at all.
If it's going to happen at all. There are some interesting aspects that come up in your book, many different things that are, we just don't have time to talk about tonight, but do some of those who cross over, that is, who physically die, continue to assist us on this side? And is
very much so.
Is there a merging, do you think, or are the veils thinning between sides?
Yeah, I think very much so. You see, what it comes down to, Lance, is that the reason why we've gotten into such a distorted state in our time in history is because we've fallen for the illusion of duality. There's 6 planets in Aries right now, and all of those planets in such a breakthrough sign. It's the part of everybody right now that I keep hearing a similar theme from people, Lance, from my readers and my astrology clients and a lot of people. What I keep hearing is that it's picking open those hidden factors that have been behind the scenes manipulating everything. It's not so behind the scenes anymore. Like that movie Inside Job, it basically exposed the dirty laundry of President Obama and the United States. Pretty rough for a lot of people right now, and there's many complications and intensities, but at the same time, I'm also hearing about this kind of a relief that all this energy in Aries right now is kind of forcing a change. It's break
astrological aspects that we can all be made aware of. Because there's a lot going on this month, starting with this new moon, isn't there? I think April 3rd, where we come into a new moon, and there's many alignments that I don't understand.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of government. It basically just exposed it to a huge audience with somebody as mainstream as Matt Damon, a top famous Hollywood actor, doing the narration. It isn't some sort of dry, cerebral documentary.